She dressed ugly for a blind date, unaware he was a billionaire who fell for her at first sight. She stood in front of the mirror and deliberately chose the worst outfit she owned. Not because she didn't care, but because she cared too much. A faded brown sweater that hung awkwardly from her shoulders. Oversized jeans that hid her shape. Her hair pulled back into a tight, unflattering bun. No makeup. No perfume. No sparkle in her eyes. Just exhaustion. Elara Munir had learned the hard way that sometimes, the only way to protect your heart, was to make sure no one wanted it. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and love that sees beyond appearances, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to One Heart Stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. It was a bright Saturday afternoon in early spring. Sunlight spilled across the cafe windows, warming the polished wooden tables inside. Couples laughed softly over cappuccinos. Fresh flowers sat in small glass jars. It was the kind of day made for new beginnings. Elara didn't believe in new beginnings. Her best friend had forced her into the blind date after months of gentle pushing. Just meet him once, she had insisted. He's kind. Successful. Grounded. Elara had stopped listening at successful. The last successful man she dated had loved showing her off more than loving her. He had measured her worth in dresses, makeup, and how well she matched his lifestyle. When he left, he told her she wasn't ambitious enough for his future. She decided that if this man was anything like the others, she would make sure he left disappointed before she ever got attached. When she walked into the cafe, a few heads turned not because she dazzled them, but because she looked so painfully ordinary in a room dressed for charm. She felt invisible. Safe. What she didn't know was that at a corner table by the window sat Xavier Rahman, founder and CEO of a global tech company recently featured on the cover of Forbes. At 32, he was known in business magazines as a visionary. Online, he was labeled a billionaire. In reality, he was just a man exhausted by people loving his success more than his soul. He wasn't wearing a suit that day. Just a simple navy shirt and rolled-up sleeves. He liked blending in. It helped him see people clearly. When Elara stepped inside, Xavier looked up casually. And then he forgot to breathe. It wasn't her sweater. It wasn't her hair. It wasn't anything conventional. It was the way she scanned the room cautiously, like someone who had been hurt but still showed up anyway. It was the quiet strength in her posture. The honesty in her eyes. She looked real. When she walked toward him and softly said his name, his heart did something unfamiliar. It steadied. They sat across from each other, afternoon sunlight falling between them. Elara kept her guard high. She spoke politely but briefly. She avoided questions about herself. She assumed the moment he realized she wasn't glamorous, he would lose interest. But Xavier didn't. He listened. Not the way men listened while waiting to impress. He listened like her words mattered. When she spoke about her work as a primary school art teacher, expecting indifference, he leaned forward instead. When she mentioned struggling to fund supplies for her students, his expression softened not with pity, but admiration. For the first time in a long time, Elara felt seen without being evaluated. Still, she waited for the shift. The moment he would subtly ask about brands, ambitions, status. It never came. Instead, Xavier asked about her favorite childhood memory. About the first painting she ever loved. About what she would do if fear wasn't in the way. She found herself answering. Hours passed unnoticed. Coffee turned to tea. The cafe grew quieter as the afternoon sun mellowed into golden light. Elara felt something dangerous rising inside her hope. Then reality struck. As they stood to leave, a sleek black car pulled up outside the cafe. The driver stepped out quickly, scanning the area before opening the back door. Elara's stomach dropped. A passerby whispered Xavier's name in shock. Someone near the entrance stared at him, eyes wide. Recognition spread like wildfire. Her chest tightened. Of course. Of course he was one of them. Xavier noticed the shift in her expression immediately. The walls she had slowly lowered rebuilt themselves in seconds. He gently explained, not boasting, not apologizing, just stating facts. Yes, he ran a company. Yes, it had grown bigger than he ever imagined. But no, that wasn't what he wanted from today. Elara felt foolish. She had dressed down to avoid attracting a shallow man. Instead, she had met someone whose world was far beyond hers. In her mind, the imbalance screamed. He would get bored. He would realize she didn't belong in his life. He would outgrow her. Fear wrapped around her heart like a familiar chain. So she did what she always did when she felt small. She stepped back. Over the next week, she avoided his messages. She convinced herself that men like him eventually chose women who sparkled in ballrooms, not classrooms. She told herself she had misread everything. But Xavier wasn't used to giving up on things that mattered. Instead of grand gestures, he showed up quietly at her school one afternoon with a donation anonymous. He insisted covering art supplies for the entire year. He didn't make a speech. He didn't take photos. He simply knelt beside one of her students, helping her mix paint colors. Elara watched from the doorway, heart trembling. He didn't look like a billionaire there. He looked like a man who cared. Later that day, when the children had gone home and sunlight streamed through dusty windows, he finally told her the truth, not about money, but about loneliness. About being admired but rarely understood, about wondering if anyone would ever look at him without calculating his worth. And Elara realized something profound. She had dressed ugly to avoid being chosen for the wrong reasons. He had dressed simple to avoid being loved for the wrong ones. They were both hiding. If this story is touching your heart right now, take a moment to like the video, share it, and tell us in the comments if you've ever felt unseen or misunderstood. Your story matters here. Elara slowly let herself believe that maybe love wasn't about matching status. Maybe it was about matching courage. Months later, on another bright afternoon, she stood in front of her mirror again. This time, she didn't hide. She wore a soft blue dress. Not expensive. Not dramatic. Just her. Her hair fell naturally around her shoulders. She smiled not because she needed to impress anyone, but because she finally felt enough. Xavier waited outside her apartment building, no cameras, no spectacle. When she walked toward him, sunlight catching in her hair, he looked at her the same way he had the first day, as if she was the only person in the room. And in that moment, Elara understood something life-changing. The right person doesn't fall for your shine. They fall for your truth. Before we end, I have a special request: comment the word real if you believe genuine love still exists in this world. And if this story moved you, please engage with the video, share your thoughts, and subscribe to One Heart Stories. You never know who might need this reminder today that sometimes, the most beautiful love stories begin when we stop trying to look beautiful at all.